is an impromptu talk with Tim with Mr. Gavin Sanders, our worship leader, guitar player, and you've been a youth back in the day. I don't know if you're still considered a youth or.
I would think technically, because I'm still 20, but either way.
Well, we just got done with worship practice, and we just decided to do this because I haven't done one of these in a minute. So get to know Gavin Sanders. He is also known as Rocket from Garden of the Galaxies. He's a raccoon. You can see the dark circles around his eyes. He is not sleepy.
And we're off.
Okay.
I should have known this was going to happen like this.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, this is the last time I talked to you was when you did the graduation. Not the last time I talked to you, but the last time I talked to you on camera.
I mean, I knew what you meant.
Yeah, it was when you did your senior graduation video and had the classic line of, "I love my English teacher. He taught me to word better."
Word gooder.
Word gooder. Okay.
Word gooder.
Something like that. You were dead serious for a second there. But that was interesting. I'm getting over a cold or something from that camp of infested teenage kids and.
Welcome to schoolwork. Welcome to working in a school.
You must. So you do work at what is it? West Plains.
West Plains.
West
yes.
Plains. How are you liking that job right now?
I really, really like it. It's definitely been the best opportunity out of the jobs I've had so far. I can definitely say it's not a dead end.
It's a step above Casey's.
I'd say a few steps above Casey's. Yeah.
Casey's was pretty far up there, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was an honor to be there. Like it was on that upper echelon, but not for me in the end.
You don't feel the same pride in your work as you felt when you were at Casey's.
Yeah, there's just nothing quite like sweeping and mopping a floor and having people screaming at you while you're doing it.
Of course, that was a pinnacle of your life, and I'm sure something you miss greatly is being at Casey's. And
absolutely.
But anyway, you moved on, so now you're at West Plains. You are a
paraprofessional.
I keep wanting to say paralegal or paralyzed. What does the para stand for anyway?
I honestly have no idea.
Okay.
I've never asked.
Either have I. It's always been I don't even know what para means. Parachute. What do you think that means? Open?
No. Yeah, I'm an open professional.
Safety? Is it safety?
No.
Para?
What?
All right, now we got to look it up.
Yeah, let's just look it up.
All right. Do.
This is the part where you say something funny.
Now this is the part.
All right, so para prefix, alongside of, beside, near, resembling, beyond, apart from.
Say that one more time because I was coughing over it.
So para prefix, alongside of, beside, near, resembling, beyond. So in other words, I resemble a professional.
Okay, fair enough. You do resemble, I don't know, professional?
Something like that.
All right. So you want to open up with just conversation, or you want to open up with a testimony, or how you want to do this? Because I know you've had a couple recent things. You've had a heart issue that God's seen you through. Your mom has experienced something. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
no, absolutely.
We can get into that.
Because we're somewhat on the other side of that.
All right, good
somewhat.
Deal. Good deal.
Yeah, I don't know. Just what do you want me to start with? Just what's happened the earliest, or?
How about you start with, because I think a lot of youth and people that are just kind of like finding their way into God, like I don't know how serious they are. Like I know they want to experience God and kind of like walk the walk, but as far as like having that close-knit relationship, has that developed in you, like probably from youth to adulthood, or is that?
Oh, absolutely.
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 A lot more?
Probably the greatest period of growth in that has definitely been this past fall to now. Like that's been absolutely exponential.
What has God done, or what have you experienced God doing, like in your life during that period of time, or?
He's just shown me different ways that I can trust him and why I should trust him. There's a lot that I'll somewhat get into that he's gotten me through, and that's just kind of given me the example of just
go ahead and
to
get
trust
into
him.
it, man. Let's just jump in. Parachute in.
Parachute in. So I guess.
Would God be considered para deity?
No, because he's a deity.
But he's close to you, right? Jesus would be. Is that? I don't. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I can't believe we went down that wormhole. You're going to have to edit that out. No, anyways, so I guess I'll just start with probably what happened the earliest, and that was, or probably the biggest thing and the earliest thing was that with my heart condition, which you kind of alluded to. Just to kind of give a brief synopsis on it, if you will, the condition's called long QT type 2. And essentially what it is, when your heart beats, it has different intervals to it. It's, and I'm probably going to mess this up, I want to say QSRT. That may not be right, but RSQT, that's what it is. No, that's not right either. I can't remember. Anyways, but what it is, so your heart has different beat intervals. The first and third letter of it are your heart beating, and the second and fourth are your heart recovering.
Okay.
So QT are those second and fourth. Mine is way longer than what it should be.
On the recovery or on the...
On the recovery. So
Okay.
yeah, so the beats already happened. It takes longer to recover. And that, you know, obviously puts me at elevated risk of arrhythmia. And the way that we even found out about it was kind of the first miracle of the situation, honestly. And I've gotten this story wrong a little bit over the years, too. I'll throw myself under the bus. I misremembered it. So what had happened was...
Misremembered it. That's another new word. All right, sorry, go ahead.
I'm telling you, it's a word. Anyways, but so it was my sports physical during my sophomore year of high school, and we were in the doctor's office. We had to wait forever, and then we were just about to be done with all of it. And the doctor asked me, was my chest hurting while I was doing cross country, just kind of part of the questionnaire. And I made the sarcastic remark, well, of course, I'm a fat kid running cross country. Go figure, my chest is going to hurt. And she didn't find it too funny because that meant she had to run a test called an EKG, which is just nodes and wires, basically.
Sorry.
You're good. Detecting the electrical signal in your heart. And so just absolutely thinking nothing of it at the time. Like, we just thought it was just going to come out perfectly normal, nothing to it. It did not. So she took one look at it, and I knew something was wrong when she said, huh, that's odd. Let's run another one. So they ran another one, and it had the exact same result. Like, that interval, the QT interval, just was insane. So she ran it one more time, and again, exact same thing for the third time. So at that point, she knew something was up. She couldn't officially diagnose me just because she's general, and that's a cardiology issue. But so from there, she referred me to a doctor that was in Springfield that confirmed that I have type 2 long QT. But what was a mystery at that time was what caused it, because we knew there was a family history of heart issues because one of my grandpas died really suddenly of a heart attack. So we knew there was a family history there, but we didn't quite know what was causing it. So went to the doctor in Springfield for a little bit, a year and a half maybe, and it really just got to the point where he didn't have answers anymore. And the QT interval just kept lengthening and lengthening even with medication treatment. And he just didn't have answers for me anymore. And so he sent my EKGs off to a doctor in St. Louis, at St. Louis Children's, and they picked up my case on my first appointment, one of my first appointments there. They did genetic testing on me to see if they could kind of figure out if this is a genetic disease, if this is just some freak mutation. And it turns out it's a bit of both. So it's genetic in the sense that it's passed down on my mom's side of the family. It's a mutation in the sense that, so not getting overly technical, but you know, you've got a DNA double helix, like the thing that looks like a twisted ladder.
Yeah.
So with mine, there are 3 sets of missing proteins which cause my long QT, and I was the first reported case of that ever.
Really?
Yeah. After we got that figured out,
Finally
and
first in something.
yeah, I know it was a good feeling. I've never had that happen before. No, but the more that we started to get figured out, the more peace that we got about it. my diagnosis led to my sister's diagnosis, so it's good to know she's safe now. And really it's just been checkups. I've got my cybernetics, as I like to call it.
So is this something that you can fix if it's detected early enough, or is it?
No.
No?
No, it's so you can manage it, but it'll never be normal. So my QT is 60 milliseconds slower than what it was. And so we're definitely managing it, but like I'm never going to be on a normal level.
So how do you manage it? Just medication, or is it
Yeah,
diet or anything?
medication, just avoiding certain things because with my
Like energy drinks?
not really.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, the 15 monsters that were on stage. No, but really what it is, it's funny to me, it's jump scares that will trigger it. And I really like haunted houses. So, and of course I just kept doing it anyways because I'm me, but.
So if you like take a, like if you get scared, it just kind of stops, takes a second to like your heart takes a second to no, I can't think of words. Re-trigger, I guess. A reset.
So not quite. It's more like it'll get thrown off of rhythm, and then it finds itself eventually.
Okay. What does that do?
Or
to
it
you?
doesn't.
What does that do to you physically? Is that?
So I'm fortunate enough to never have had any episodes related to it. So I don't really know. From what I've gathered, the biggest thing is that it does put you at risk of cardiac arrest, which is a really big thing I have to look out for. And it's just symptoms similar to a heart attack.
I got you. So it doesn't like put you in some kind of dizziness or something like that, or just.
I mean, I'm sure it could, should something happen, but in full disclosure, I'm not an expert on any of this.
Yeah.
I know that's a shocker, but.
You got it. So you got diagnosed with that, and then what's become of it? Just kind of got peace with it, or you just.
Absolutely. It was almost kind of a blessing that I found out about it as young as I was, because I was like 14, 15. So like it didn't click, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't really understand things like that at that age, or this age really. Like, and so that helped a lot, because while that would be something that like my parents and my doctors were stressing over, I wasn't so much. And it's not the easiest thing to manage, because it's still kind of in the back of my mind. Like, especially when I start to feel my heart rate getting up, I'm like, something about to happen? Like, what's going on here? But for the majority of the time, I mean, it's really not an issue.
I'm almost thinking that's like more scary, because like you almost kind of forget about it after a while, and
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's like if it was something that was constantly in front of your face or something you had to deal with, like I don't know, it's almost worse it.
I used to joke that it was a ticking time bomb. I've kind of quit joking about that,
Yeah.
but
Well, what else are you gonna do about it? You know, it's.
yeah, I know. No, and that's the approach that I've had the whole time. Like, I've got this, so I can either let it make me miserable or I can let it make me laugh. And I chose the latter.
So one thing that I found like with you is because like we used to play on the worship team previously, like quite a few years back.
Yeah.
And
7 years.
7 years.
It's been 7 years.
Wow. But I remember like we used to play together, and it was just kind of, picking up guitars, just kind of playing riffs and stuff like that. But your maturity level and your heart for worship has definitely changed, as is mine, like over the years. But what do you think kind of took you to another place as far as your worship goes? Because like right now, seeing you step up and you lead in song, like you're becoming more confident with your vocals. You're becoming more confident in your riffs. You're very into trying to get your guitar to sound the way you want it to sound, and making sure the melodies, you're actually doing music directing as well. So like what kind of caused that step over to where you kind of wanted to, I guess, take it seriously?
I think it's just because I fell in love with worship. Like, that, honest and truly, is what it was. Because when I started going to church, I couldn't stand worship. Like, I didn't see the point of it at all. I was like, why do we have to stand and sing? Like, just let the dude get up there and talk. Like, even when I started here, like, I absolutely couldn't stand worship. And then, I started playing it on youth. And then that kind of, I wouldn't even call that a worship style of playing, because it was basically just power chords.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I did for years.
C, F, G.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember Richard referring to it as chicken scratch on a weekly basis.
Right.
But it was kind of just a progression of me. It was really a lot of different things. It was me developing as a musician. It was me really understanding what worship was, and it was me growing with God that really started that like initial jump. And then there were a few other different factors. I give a lot of credit to my guitar teacher for really helping me like put the pieces together.
Give him a shout out.
Shout out Vincent Chakowski. You are the absolute best. I'll be hitting you up soon for a lesson. Anyways, but he really helped me connect the dots, and it just still the continued development of myself in God and in music. I think what made truly the biggest jump was when I realized how technically difficult it was, like how difficult it was to get those right tones dialed in, how difficult it was to be able to improvise those melodies, how difficult it was just to be able to pick up those melodies listening to the songs. And I think the challenge motivated me, but more than anything, it's just always been something that I've loved to do, and I don't know that I'll ever quit.
So what's your take on like the big production kind of worship stuff? Like, I don't want to like mention any churches or anything like that, but you have like the large budget, large production, but like to give props where props are due is like you can have guys that are computer nerds, that love to program stuff. Now they have an opportunity to give something back to God, back to the church, back to people, like offering their gifts and talents and stuff like that by programming lights or programming songs and stuff like that. So there's a place for those people in those big venues. But then you also have people that are like, I don't really care for like the big stuff, the big shows, the big thing. I've been kind of like bouncing back and forth with that. I'm just kind of curious, like what your thoughts are on it. Like, do you think the big things, like like dialing in, like that kind of stuff helps people draw into worship, or at least the musicians or yourself? Or do you think it's more of a distraction and it takes away from what the actual message is, like about giving glory to God and lifting His name up? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, I feel like it does help quite a bit to be really focused on dialing everything in, because you spend all the time focusing on the nuance, and then when it actually comes time for worship on Sunday, it's almost that much more rewarding. Like, as you're entering into the presence, it's essentially your work being manifested through Him. And as far as like big productions, am I a fan of them? I definitely think they have a time and place, and I definitely think they have their purpose. Because I definitely, I will name a few churches, like without the Bethels or Hillsong, like we wouldn't even be doing what we're doing. So I definitely do think it has its time and place and its purpose, and I think it is really good at kind of setting the culture. As far as a body goes, I honestly prefer smaller like we have, just because there's not as much of a sense of community, which seems strange considering there's that many more people. But the way I look at it is, there's a lot of people in the congregation, but, everyone else is like a mile and a half away from you, or like the other side is like a mile from you. And there's not the connection like there is with smaller bodies, or even, more mid-sized. And that's just a me thing. I know that a lot of people have their preferences, and some people even disagree that there is a great sense of community in something like that. But that's just kind of where I'm at on it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different genres and a lot of different like ways to present worship, and that's why there's so many different churches and so many different bodies and, pastors and styles and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't want to get into like knocking anybody. I'm just kind of curious, like, because it is something that kind of go back and forth with in my own head, because I've heard the arguments on both sides. Like, it's like, God can move with just a piano and, hymns, which is true. God can move like in a huge production, and I honestly, like, my thoughts on it have always been, not always been, but kind of what I came to the conclusion of is, or at least our style of worship is to turn the lights down and create an atmosphere, or try to, or at least attempt to create an atmosphere where people don't feel like they're being looked at, and they can actually have that time alone with God. And because you go to these churches where, it is just a piano, and you could hear a pin drop, you could hear babies crying, you could hear, you're looking around. And this is a thing that is hard to do, but like when you are leading worship, or when you're playing, or you're on the stage at all, anything you do can be a distraction. It's like if you stop in the middle of the song and just decide to like dig in your pocket for your keys or something like that, that will take somebody out of a moment. So I love what you said about like putting in the work and trying to get to a point now. We're not professional paid musicians or anything like that, but we do, like, and that's one thing I love about our worship team is like, everybody is putting in an effort, to give God something of themselves, and to also share that with the congregation.
I think the fact that we're not a perfect team is probably one of our greatest strengths.
Yeah.
Because I think this could totally just be a me thing, and sorry to diverge a little bit, but it's almost like the big worship leaders almost have like that aura. You know what I mean? Like they feel like they're somebody. I'm really glad that
rock star thing, like.
Honestly, yeah. Like, and I know that that's not all of them, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't even venture so far as to say a lot of them. But I'm really glad that we're not that, and I'm really glad that after all of it's over, we're just right there being part of the body.
Yep.
There's
no back behind the stage drinking coffee and.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just, again, it falls back onto that community concept that I really feel like thrives here and in churches like ours.
Yeah. It's more just a community feeling. It's like you're free.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're free to mess up, but you don't want to.
Well, and two, our imperfections make it more genuine, because if we were to try to present this, image of perfection, that's not attainable. Like we cannot be perfect.
No.
Like the only one who will ever be perfect has already lived and gone. So that's not obtainable. And I absolutely love the fact that we don't try to present that, because I think, number one, it helps us reach a lot more people. And number two, it adds that authenticity to it, which is something that I feel like's been important to us since the beginning.
You've always been big on authenticity. I know that.
Yeah, that's just how I am. I have no idea why.
Well, it's probably because if I was to guess, it would just be because it's something that you more relate to. You don't want to sit there and have to guess like what somebody's actually trying to say or mean or whatever. So you just prefer, to be in an atmosphere to where it's like, oh yeah, I know they're joking, or it's like
what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
It also gives you room for forgiveness too, because it's like if somebody has a baseline, like okay, they're always trying to be funny, then like that one day that they're not, or they slip up and say something wrong, that's not their baseline, But anyway, that's kind of going off subject again too, but
yeah, that's what we're good at. That's absolutely what we're best at.
And yeah, this worship team, we call it what is it, ADHD?
ADD. What was it?
Okay, you even forgot. Awesome, dynamic disciples or something.
Something like that. I felt like we had a better one.
Tried to come up with some kind of acronym for it, but yeah.
Comment section.
No, it is definitely an ADD team. It's like it takes a long time to kind of get us all together and on focus. But I tell you what, like the morning prayer circle is something that I really do. Like I don't care what's happening, what's going on, but as soon as we start, with the prayer, it's like it always takes a while to kind of get focused in. But it's like once we once we start praying over the surface, and we start getting, that what it's all about, like everything just kind of just disappears. It's just such a beautiful thing. I always end up tearing up, like when we're getting ready to go up there. But it's, I love it. I love that beginning prayer because it is kind of a focusing, and God does do a lot through that. But you want to get into, I know you got to probably get out of here soon, but let's get into what just recently happened with your mom. And
No, I got
okay,
time.
okay, cool. All right, you're good. You're having fun.
No, and I will kind of elaborate on the prayer circle a little bit because that is something that I really do feel like is important. It's absolute best, and for me, it focuses me on God and reminds me of almost that sense of isolation with God that we try to achieve in worship. Because, ultimately that's what our goal is, and I think you hit on it phenomenally, that what we're trying to do is set up that atmosphere and trying to sort of, usher in the presence in a sense.
That it is all about Him.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that because it's also important to me.
It is a great, you're always late to it, but I'm sure it is important to you.
Yeah, mornings are a struggle. And you'd think that would change now that I've worked at a school, but no. I don't know what it is. It's just that 8 o'clock is just, it's almost impossible for me. Like, I can do 5:40 and 6 o'clock, no problem. I can do 4 o'clock, no problem. But 8 o'clock, I have no idea why.
Just that, it's like the Bermuda Triangle of times, huh?
Pretty much, so I can do
you don't know where you're at for a few minutes, and then
I can do 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and then nothing until 11 o'clock after that.
Have you tried maybe changing your watch and say, okay, now it's it's not 8 o'clock, it's 7:10?
No, because I think that would just send me into a mad chaos. I think that it would achieve those results. I just think there would be some unintended consequences of that.
Well, we're all unique and wonderfully made, so.
It was a nice try to get me here on time, though.
It's an attempt. But no, we all don't mind just sitting around waiting for hours, until everybody gets here.
Okay, let's be a little dramatic about it. I would maybe hours total.
And man, some of the hardest things that I had to struggle with was just getting angry at worship. There were you've seen a few of those outbursts, but it's worship shouldn't be something you get angry about. It shouldn't be something that you have to endure. It shouldn't be it should be enjoyed. It should be something that you enjoy doing. And I've had to rewire myself a few times because it does become about it's I want to make this better than it was, and you kind of get in those mindsets, and we just don't need to go there. So you want to be good, you want to be you want to improve consistently, but man, that's a tough thing. When you're just walking, and I don't know. That's one thing I love about Darren. Darren, hate to say it, but he's almost like he's got that Mr. Rogers kind of thing going, where he will stop everything.
Yep.
And make sure it's okay, to move on.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But Darren was such a good move. Oh my gosh. We knew God would send us somebody, and I wasn't really super around for that process. Yeah. But we knew He'd send us somebody. I just don't think we knew that we would get what we got. And he's absolutely phenomenal.
The mustache scared me a little bit, but outside of that, it was
I wouldn't say so much the mustache scared me. It was definitely a shift. It was, a shift in generations even.
He's old, man.
I wasn't going to come out and say it.
He is old.
All right.
Wow. Anyway.
It's so let's stay distracted. It's so crazy how much he's like his dad, though. Because I was just sitting there Sunday going, oh my gosh, that's exactly something Darren would have said. Or that's exactly how Darren uses his hands at a certain point. That's just my brain in a nutshell.
I was waiting for his dad to do something wacky, I got my Scooby-Doo underwear.
Check out these socks that we got today.
All right. Bunch of inside jokes. If you don't go to this church, you probably won't.
Subscribe to the House YouTube channel so you can understand what we're talking about.
our pastor wears funny socks, and anyway, and he's got a mustache. So
Love you, Darren.
awesome guy though. I can look back past the mustache. But okay, so we're going back to
Yeah.
All right, recent things. So I remember you put out on a prayer task force for prayers for your mom. I know that meant something to you. So
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about it.
So I had known for a little bit that she was having stomach issues. We didn't really know what it was. We just knew that there was just something going on because she was constantly in pain. Like for just months, she would be in pain, and then it would recede for a little bit, and it'd just be right back. And she had been getting testing done, and she didn't really talk a whole lot about what was going on, just because the way that my mom is, she doesn't want me or my sister to worry about anything, and almost to a fault. Like, but so she was having all this testing going on, and it had honestly gotten to the point where I was wondering, like, okay, well, maybe the stomach issues had gotten resolved because I didn't, it wasn't seeming like she was talking about it as much anymore, and I was just in the mind space, okay, this seems like it's over. Odd, but it's over. And then New Year's Eve hit, and that's when she decided to, that's a negative connotation. That's when she told me and my sister officially that she was diagnosed with cancer, and that was a feeling that I haven't had since, and I don't want to since. So, I mean, you know me, like, as much as I am you can tell what I'm thinking kind of person, I don't show a ton of sad emotions. Like, I'm a Sanders. We have even-keeled or angry. Like, that's what we have. And so, like, I really don't show sadness, like, that often. And I cried, like, forever. Like, it was just 10 minutes of me sitting on the couch. Like, I was just in tears.
That's
I couldn't.
mom, man.
Huh?
So that's mom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I was thinking the whole time. Like, why does it have to be my mom? Like, I didn't want it to be anybody else, but I was like, just why?
I know what you mean.
Why my mom? And it was absolutely terrifying because, like, my whole life, I've been hearing about cancer. I had a high school math teacher who actually wound up texting me while my mom was in surgery, which was really, really nice because actually, it was who I had seen at the talent show. I don't know if you caught that interaction or not, but I ran up to a random lady and hugged her, and that was my math teacher. But so she herself had gone through cancer and cancer treatments and all that, and so it was just a super nice gesture for her to text me. But so I've seen it in that sense, and like, you hear about it all the time, and you hear about, your neighbor having it, or maybe someone that's further down the road having it.
Yeah.
And the reality of it doesn't set in until it's you or someone close to you. And I think that was like that was the hardest part of all of it, was just like that reality that, okay, she's got something that could potentially end her life, because, that's something that I've been dealing with for a long time. But, again, that's my mom, like that, it was just so much different. And it was,
You don't know what's going to happen with that. And there's nothing you can do except just go through the treatments and see what happens.
yeah, well, and like how I have my genetic abnormalities, she had abnormalities with her, with the course of it all. Like it was growing in ways that they weren't expecting, and it would just such odd behavior. But all this was just kind of going on. And it wasn't so much like I carried it on my sleeve all the time kind of thing. Like it was something, and this is something that I credit my QT for, but it's just given me that mindset of, okay, well, I can either face this or I can just let it simmer here. And, I've learned to choose to face it. And so that's really what I did. And it would be like every now and then, like something would happen and it would it would get to me. I think probably the biggest thing was the night of the talent show. So number one, that was her birthday. And number two, I found out over text that I shouldn't have read or shouldn't have seen it, long story, but that it had spread. And so that really, really bothered me because it was exactly what my worst fear was with it, that it's starting to get worse. So and then it fast forwards a couple months, and I find out that she has a surgery date, and really the stress of the surgery didn't hit me until we were there in the holding room with her, waiting for her to go back. Like, up until that point, like, I had been praying on it. I couldn't tell you how hard. Like, I've got a really, really phenomenal story about that. I had went with my mom to her church, and me and my Papa Keith were praying with her, for the healing. And it was really the first time that I can truly say, like, that was praying in power. Like, it felt like there was power behind the words. It felt like something was about to move. And I didn't know when, but I kept getting that word of healing. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I just knew eventually there was just that word of healing that was with me. So
You ever, sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're good.
Have you ever you had something that was like stuck and you're like pushing and pushing and pushing and you just start to feel like just a little nudge, like this thing is going to actually move? That's what kind of like, I had that feeling before, like where you're praying and it's like you just feel like it just gives way a little bit and it's like, oh, there's something moving here,
I felt something happen, and it
makes you push harder into it, you know?
Yep. And it was like super unexplainable, and that's the exact effect that it had. Yeah. Like, I just kept praying in it and praying, and until I couldn't anymore. It felt like, but no, that is exactly how it felt like. It felt like that day. Excuse me. I felt just that seal finally come loose. Yeah. And that was really the greatest sense of peace that I had throughout any of it. But so fast forward a little bit, and it's the actual day of the surgery. I'm there, my dad's there, my Nana and Papa are there, my dad's friend Paul, who's also an ordained minister. But so we're all there, and me and my dad are the only ones that can go back into the holding room with her. And we are waiting there absolutely forever. They were originally an hour behind schedule, and we didn't get back there till 3 hours behind schedule. And it really gave me time to stew on things, and it did create that sense of anxiety, which is something that I struggle with. Yeah. And at that point, it was seeming to be like, pretty desperate. I was pretty desperate at that point because it was such an unknown.
I don't know if you said this. What was the surgery for?
So, yeah, and I was going to kind of get into that. So what it was is it was what's called a laparoscopic extraction of the organs. And what laparoscopic means, instead of traditional, where it's one massive scar that goes like across the area, because it was so many different organs affected by it, so it started in the gallbladder and had been to the liver and pancreas at that point. So you got 3 different organs having things cut out of them. So what it is, instead of one incision, it's small incisions, and they almost have you seen Doctor Strange?
Probably not.
Okay, or just any medical shows where they've got like that little wire camera that they put in during an operation. Essentially, they use that, to perform it so they don't have to make as large of an incision. But there was honestly the chance that that wouldn't even be able to happen. Like, they told us from the beginning of it, like, hey, there's a chance that we won't be able to do this. So just be prepared for that. But so finally, I get the news that everything is finished. She's fine. Like, there haven't really been any complications from the procedure. Recovery was pretty rough. Like, I've never seen my mom off her feet for more than a day at a time, and that was almost 2 weeks of her like really being out of it. But so the recovery aspect of it was rough, but other than that, the procedure was fine. And then the biggest hurdle of absolutely all of it was, okay, now, was this actually a success? Because we knew that it went smoothly, but we didn't know if that actually removed the malignant cells or not. And so we had to wait what felt like months. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it felt like we had to wait absolute months on the results. And this is probably one of those that I won't forget as long as I live. But we had just finished up a track meet in Waynesville, and I mean, it was hot. Like, I was exhausted. I was just so ready to get home, and I honestly kind of in a bad mood because I was hungry too. And next thing I know, I get a text, and it's a text from my mom saying that the results came back negative and that she was cancer-free. And yeah, oh my gosh, you have no idea. So, and you've kind of got a sense of this now that you're doing some work in schools, but like 7th and 8th graders are absolutely brutal. And that's all that I have on this bus. Not only 7th and 8th graders, 7th and 8th grade boys, who are the absolute worst. Like,
Story to tell, but go ahead.
they're the absolute worst. And so, like, you can't show, like, anything in front of them. And so I was sitting on that bus having worship blasting through my earbuds, just, like, fighting back tears the whole time because it was such a sense of relief. And what was probably one of the coolest things about that moment to me was, you know, in the song Jireh, the second verse starts with, I don't want to forget how I feel right now. I never really understood that. Like, I never really knew what that meant or how to relate to it until that moment. And I get it now. That honestly, kind of going way back to your initial question of how has exiting you to adulthood grown me in Christ, that's the biggest part of it, is because just living life is what it takes to see that you need Jesus and you need God there to guide you on your path. And, you know,
Good stuff.
no, it was phenomenal. It was one of the best. It was incredible. There's just nothing else I can say about it.
Do you have a favorite scripture or something to kind of lean on every once in a while, or?
Yes, I can't remember it right off the top of my head.
I can't remember anything off the top of my head. Took me 6 hours to think of the Gaithers. It's an exaggeration, but.
Well, my favorite one is right now just because it's just so applicable to what I feel like is a lot of our lives. And technically, it's more favorite verses, but it's Matthew 11:28 through 30. I'll just do Matthew 28.
Okay.
Then Jesus said, "Come to you, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And I feel like that embodies who God is, honestly, because that's what he wants for us, is to be able to rest in him and not, you know, and it's funny because we just recently did this series in church, but I mean, you know, he does want that burden that we have to bear to be light.
Something I've been feeling a lot like during worship is like just the surrender aspect of it, like to give like it's an easy word to say, but kind of like what you were saying with Gyra, like I don't ever want to forget how I feel right now. Like it means something different to you now. Like surrender, like it's something that, especially as guys, as men, or whatever, like it's goes against every like bit of like surrendering his weakness, surrendering.
Oh,
his,
absolutely.
But like to give a problem to God and just say like, I give it to you. Like, that's what I love about Darren's dad, is when he mentioned that this last Sunday, when he was saying that at some point I just said I had to give Darren to God, and then finish it up with like, now look at him. Like basically like this wasn't me, it's like this was a point where I just had to say I have to let it go. I can't have my hand on it anymore because I'm messing this up, or I will mess it up. And he was probably wise enough to know that, like, just how he felt about whatever situation was happening, that like he knew it wasn't going to be a good outcome if he handled it himself. So giving it to God, that's that surrender thing that is so hard to get across.
It is.
Sometimes where you're just completely saying I can't do it, and that's whether it's addiction, whether it's anything, it's like I can't do this on my own, and that's the hardest thing I think for anybody to kind of reach a point.
No, absolutely. Those are the hardest words to say for just about anybody, because it's so difficult for us to even just cope with the fact that we can be inadequate for certain situations.
Just that we're not capable, and that's, we want to be capable. I mean, it's like from the time, we start talking and walking, it's like, we want to continue to grow, and it's like, I don't know. It's just a hard thing to like, swallow that pride and just say, it's like, I can't do everything, but I will do what I can. And if all it is just sitting in the presence of God and worshiping Him, then that's what I'm going to do. But
that's why I really like the song Gratitude, because, that chorus of it is, all I have is a hallelujah, and, I have nothing else fit for a king, but just simply giving a hallelujah.
Yep. Just putting Him above it. Like right now, my songs that always get me choked up is Fear is a Liar. That one gets to me. And Holy Forever, like just that part where it says all kings and or all thrones, no, I'm going to ruin the words, all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, so your name stands above them all. And it's like, I don't know why, but that just like, ooh, that hits me.
Yeah.
Right? But
no, I've definitely got my ones that will just send me just bawling, just absolutely bawling.
Well, it sends an image to me of like everybody that holds power over you, everybody that, it's just everything's going to crumble down before the feet of God, and it's like, I don't know why, but that's it's not empowering. It's like, it's the opposite of that. It's just
Humbling.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I do kind of have like one more thing, and this one would probably...
Sorry, out of time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay.
Okay.
Like and subscribe for part 2.
What will Gavin say? No. Go ahead. What you got?
So it is the story of what...
A man named Brady?
Who's bringing up 3 boys of his own?
Right.
No, but...
This is a story about how your life got flipped, turned upside down. Yeah.
Honestly, yes. I mean, I know you're trying to be funny right now, but that's really what happened.
I'm trying, man. I'm hilarious.
I think...
To be determined.
Debatable. Debatable. Pending. How about that?
I'm going to add a laugh track just to make it sound funnier, but go ahead.
Yeah, because that's how that works. No, but no, it literally is the story of how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Or what I refer to as the best and worst weekend of my life.
Okay. Because
So much changed, and it seemed like all of it was for the worse, and it all wound up working itself out. But so it was the weekend that I had went to that concert, and I had 3 major losses all in the span of 72 hours. I had broken up with my longtime girlfriend at the time. I had been fired, or that would happen a little bit later, and my car just basically collapsed on me. So essentially, like, I lost...
trifecta.
Huh?
The trifecta of a blues song.
Yeah, well, yes. What's funny, that's a third different version of that joke that I've heard. So my dad says My Life's Like a Rap, that weekend was like a rap song. My mom says that weekend was like a country song, and now we have blues.
I think your dad's absolutely wrong on this one because I haven't heard any sad rap songs like that. I've heard, like, I got 3 girlfriends, 10 cars, and ton of money.
That is
in the
true.
bank.
Rap does have too much of a flex culture for something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, your dad's wrong. Sorry, Mr. Sanders, but
Sorry, Dad. Anyways, but so yeah, like I had all that go wrong in the same weekend, and it all kind of just, again, tied back into what I had said earlier, where like I've developed this mindset of I can either face this head on and get through it, or I can just let this ruin me. And that was really like everything leading up to that was like one of the biggest turning points. And what was so amazing yet terrible about it was like by the time the second thing had happened, like I was basically numb to everything. Like it was just so much happening at once that I was just like it was almost like I couldn't feel anything about it anymore.
keep throwing dirt on me.
Pretty much. Like that's really what it was. And I remember very well, like the day that I had lost my job was when I knew I was at that crossroads. Do I want to face this, or do I just want to sink into this and not do anything? And it was really tempting to not do anything. And it was really tempting to just, do the poor me stuff.
Yeah.
And instead what I did was the thing that I wouldn't say I know how to do best, but one of the things that's really one of my go-tos, just worshiping. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't know what the other side of it was going to look like. I didn't know if that was even going to do anything because, and that was kind of like after that little hiatus that I had. And so it really just, I wasn't as close to God as I had wanted to be. But I still just had that instinct that, it's time to worship and that's how I'm going to get through this. And I tie almost everything back into music. And Lion was the song that really woke everything up in me. And that's why that song has such amazing significance to me, is because that's the song that really just lit the flame. And I've been going ever since, really. And just the way that everything has resolved itself, I mean, I've had the sense that God wants me out of relationships especially for a while, just because it's so easy to lose sight of Him and yourself in relationships. And that's something that I didn't even realize before going into it, like just how.
All right, man, get into that. You got to delve a little more deeper. Right.
Okay, so.
How do relationships pull you away
from God?
Yeah. Now you're talking to the youths.
I am talking to the youths.
Talking to the youths.
I mean, one of the absolute biggest ways that it takes you away from God is it takes your time away from God. Because it's so much easier to spend your time with, someone than with God. And, relationships make it so much more tempting because it's something that, you are supposed to nurture and that you are supposed to grow in, but at the same time, it doesn't need to overtake everything else. And that's really what the difference can be between what is a healthy relationship and what's a toxic relationship. What all do you have going on outside of this relationship? And I'm not meaning I'm not meaning anything like extracurriculars, but, are you still engaged with worship? Are you still, do you still even just think about God, honestly? Because it can really, when you've fallen into that pit, for lack of a better term, it takes your focus away from a lot. Or at least it can take your focus away from a lot, especially in a bad relationship.
The number one question is what is worship to you? And like pretty much the conclusion I come up with is, this is going a lot of different answers, but it's pretty much what you give your time and your focus to is what you worship, and we're created to worship. What we worship is that's our call, it's like we got the free will to do that, but it's like some of us we pour ourselves into money, we pour ourselves into females, girls, whatever, it's like, and I know you can't walk around 24/7 just looking up and praising God, but
because that's not realistic.
it's not. But for a moment to just, it's appreciative, like, wake up in the morning and be like, get another day. It's like, Lord, I hope I make the most of it. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to, just little things, helps with that. But yeah, I like what you said with how it does distract you, because it is a natural thing, because we're all seeking some sort of
We all seek validation.
dopamine. Yeah, validation, dopamine. I'd call it dopamine, but it's something to.
Well, no, that too.
Yeah.
That too, because when that relationship is being fostered, like, those hormones get released, and it really, it's the personification of the battle of the flesh versus the spirit.
Value. So you're looking for value. And it's like somebody else gives it to you, so you gravitate towards that when God gives you the value, ultimately. And that value is never taken away, and that's so hard too, like even with parents and stuff like that, for like your parents will always see you as, having all the potential in the world, it's like, they know you in the back of your hand. But yeah, when you forget that, and then after a while, it's like you start to see that love seep through. It's like that's that same thing that I feel like God delivers to us, is that that sense of value. Like, it's like I knew you before you were born. I knew everything about you. That's something that person in your life or whatever will never be able to fulfill.
Yeah, and I will say this.
Not that they're not worth the time, but it's...
No, exactly. And that, to have somewhat of a positive takeaway from it, I'm not saying that relationships are evil.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not something that we should have, because I personally believe the opposite. Like, we should have these things, but...
Possible.
And...
Continue.
Especially, like, this one, again, for the youth.
Yeah, for the youth.
The absolute biggest thing is while, yes, having a bad partner can really, really make it difficult to stay on track. And listen, like, there are, from your life experiences, like, there is such a thing as a bad partner. And it can be difficult to see, like, it really can, because, the honeymoon phase is real.
Yeah.
It's real. And, sometimes people never develop out of it. But, as much as it can be, a bad partner can drag you down, you have to be accountable for yourself. You have to be able to feel yourself slipping into things. You have to be able to essentially just be your own barometer.
Yeah.
And that's what makes early relationships so dangerous to me. Or like having a first relationship, or like, your first few. Like, that's why they can be really dangerous, because it's so easy to just get sucked up in all that. And because, it's what it seems like the world wants you to do. Like, it's absolutely insane to me. Like, I look around and I see, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but like seeing half of my classmates being married and having children, like, it's insane to me.
Yeah.
But and I guess the world isn't so much. I'd say this area, like, that's a really big thing, is being settled young. And it's not even so much that there's something wrong with that. It's just, it's not right for me.
Yeah.
But just absolute.
It's not where you're seeing your life going.
Yeah. Roundabout way to say, as much as there are other outside influences that take everything away, you still have to be able to hold yourself accountable. And I think that is the difference in being young in Christ and mature in Christ, is not being able to check yourself, essentially.
I think you're pretty good at that, because you've seen, like, at least what I know about you is you have that, like, you need to be convinced. It's like, if whatever, if it's just even coming to church or, whatever, it's like you're not the type of person that just does it because, it's what you've always done or whatever. You're the type of person that says, I need to know why I'm doing this, like why am I coming to church? Why am I, playing the guitar? Why am I doing it? And if you don't feel that reason, it's like you do kind of like start evaluating and, separate yourself, and that's not a bad thing. It's not, there's a lot of people always talk about commitment, but it's like sometimes that's part of the commitment is knowing why you're doing something, so.
And also understanding when it's time to walk away from something.
Yeah.
Because that, again, like, and going back to relationships, like, I was in that way too long. Like, way too long. And again, that's so easy to do because just as humans, one of our biggest fears is being alone. And that fear of being alone can absolutely lead you to staying with a bad partner, an abusive partner, etc. And it's difficult to conquer, but, and, our former pastors, Kim and Kevin Johnson, one of the absolute best things that I think they ever said was, there will be so many voids in your life. Let God be what fills these voids, not these other things, these things that will only temporarily fill those voids, because God is what's permanent. And that, after switching that approach, like, I can testify to it, like, other things don't work. Like, relationships don't work to fill that void, because at the end of the day, you're either going to be in a bad relationship or even in a good relationship, but you still don't have that void filled, because it's just the way we've been created. There's just that small part of us.
Using the wrong tool for the job.
Exactly. Well, and there's just that small part of us that needs to be filled with the Spirit. And if it doesn't happen, then there is almost that sense of emptiness there. This is going to sound so self-indulging, and I apologize, but I was really grateful to myself to being able to just revert back to my old way and just being like, okay, things have gone haywire right now. I've tried steering this ship and I'm about to hit an iceberg. It's time to go back to what I need to do. And that's when I started worshiping. That was really when, like, everything took the upswing, and that's when I started feeling peace about that situation. Because again, like, I had lost my form of transportation, I had lost my form of employment, and my relationship, all in that time frame. And I feel like a lot of people that would have broken. And if you disagree, please, like, say so.
No.
But I feel like that would have broken a lot of people.
Well, it forces you to make a decision, and the decision is what you already said, is that you can stew in it and then make that your identity, to where it's like, oh, all bad things always happen to me and I just can't get life right and people are just evil and all that. I mean, you kind of stew in that does no good. Or you can start reevaluating things and saying, okay, how did I get to this point? I don't like being here. I want to be happy. How do I get there? And, lucky for you, you've had parents, you've had, pastors, you've had people in your life that, have pointed you towards God.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that stuck. Stuck. That's not a word.
Stuck?
That's stuck. Yeah.
Stuck.
that stuck in your head. that stuck in
No,
your head.
absolutely. It was almost like
It's all stooky up there.
it was almost like a force of habit thing at that point.
Yeah.
And excuse me. I'm glad I listened to that voice, because it's so easy to ignore that voice. And I, to this day, still fully believe that voice was the Spirit telling me what I needed to do. And it just...
I'm taking a wild guess. You have a piece about the future probably, and just...
Yeah, as much as... Yeah. Well, and I'll even get into that. So, in the beginning of all this, we kind of touched on what I'm doing now. And getting that job was... I know I've said this a couple times already, but honestly a miracle in itself. Because what had happened was, so the week after all of this, so I mean, like, I hit the ground running. Like, I didn't even give myself time to be upset about it, because
this is the week after the breakup and
yeah,
stuff,
like
right?
the week after everything.
Yeah.
And so like I was to the point I was like, I need to have a job. Like I can't be unemployed again. And so what wound up happening was at the school district where I'm working at now, they had someone in the position that I have now quit suddenly. And I would later come to find out after starting the job, she had been there for 2 days and then left. And so, but just this position all of a sudden became available. And so I felt like that was kind of where I needed to go. And so I threw my hat in the ring. I had the qualifications, etc. And then I get the phone call for the interview a couple days later. And then the interview happens, I get that over with, and it was just worship all the way there and back because, like, I understood how important it was that I get this job. Because in working for a school, absolutely the biggest benefit of it, and I briefly alluded to this, was the fact that it's not a dead end. Like, working at Walmart and working at Casey's, like, don't get me wrong, like, livings are livings.
Yeah.
And, like, there are a lot of people that can grow and thrive in those environments. But that's just not me. And so really, like, I understood that, like, this was my chance to finally do something that I feel like is actually going to be worthwhile. Or worth anything to me, really.
It's a value.
No, exactly. And then I remember listening, it was Worthy of My Song.
Great song.
And, oh my gosh. And it was when we had been playing it a lot too. Like that was the Worthy of My Song / You Won't Relent era. But
Oh, we got to bring back You Won't Relent.
oh my gosh, I love that one.
You're doing
so
worship
much.
next week, so
I don't want to do that one without you though.
I'll probably be here. Like I said, I'm just kind of helping out instruments. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but and now my train of thought's gone.
It was during the Worthy of...
Right, so during Worthy of It All, I was back in my house at this point, and I was... So I walked through the front door, was walking through the living room into my bedroom, and I hear my phone go off. And I was like, okay, there's no way it's them, but I really want to check. And I looked, and it was them. So I remember I answered the call, and you know that feeling of answering that phone call that you think you might be getting a job. So just that feeling of excitement but stress, and then just that relief when hearing the boss say, we'd like to extend you this position to you. Immediately just fell to my knees, was in tears. Like I had to try to disguise it while saying like, yes, I want the job, because like it meant so much to me, because me getting that job was it really to me felt like coming out of the hole, or coming out of the grave even.
Yeah.
And I think that number one, that growth that I talked about earlier, from that October period to now, that really kick-started that, was that time period. And again, just living life, because, honestly, and this is going to sound strange, but one of the challenges that I've had in my walk with Christ is the fact that I had been in church so long that it was almost like I had always had that safety net around me. And for it to finally be gone, and, actually living life, like, it's so difficult without God. But it's so easy to get caught in that state where you're without him. And that's really what happened, like, honestly. It was exactly like I said, where, I was trying to take control of the ship, and it wasn't working out so well. But after I finally lived life, in a sense, like I'm not dying, but well.
I think we're all dying, but
Technically, yes.
No, but nothing soon.
No.
Or hopefully. What were we talking about?
Train of thought again. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. We did so good for like the first while.
The joke started going,
and then we just completely went off the rails.
Yeah. But okay, let's see if we can home back in here. So you got this job, and it's after a period of your life where everything just kind of fell apart for you.
Yes.
Your car's breaking down. You're breaking up with somebody that has been a part of your life for a while. And your job is ended, so now you're just at a place where you have nothing, and you're learning to, this is a lesson I think everybody experiences over and over again at certain periods of their life, certain seasons of their life, but this was probably the first one where you experienced on your own, where it's like, I don't have anything except for God at this moment.
Yes.
So I'm leaning on Him, and you started digging into worship and getting, it's like, this is what I know how to do. And just kind of worshiping through the storm, and
because we are creatures of habit ultimately.
Oh, yeah.
That's our wiring. We're absolutely creatures of habit, and just go with what you know.
Yep.
And it
Well,
it was like
it's something that does, like, I've heard this said, and I've said this during worship as well, but it's like anxiety and praise cannot exist in the same area.
No.
And there's nothing I came up with, but it's like I heard it, and I'm just like, I had to process it, and I'm like, it can't. It's like I cannot feel fear or anything while I'm praising. It's like, and I love moments like where we actually do get to sit up there and play and worship and stuff like that, because even in those moments, it's like there's nothing in my mind that is like gravitating towards like, oh, what am I going to do about this? And, it's usually after I leave the altar, it's like that's when all that stuff starts coming back in. But yeah, I love like 24/7 if we can, it's like unfortunately we have to get up and do things, but
unfortunately reality does come calling after a point.
But it's what carries you through, it's what
absolutely
sees you through those moments is those moments of praise and worship. And so I'm glad you're seeing that, and I'm pretty confident, unless you're just a miracle baby, but I'm pretty confident it's like there's going to be more seasons like that, and you at least have the experience now to say, this is what I do in these situations, and it'll go through.
Absolutely. I mean, my 20s are definitely shaping up to be what they're supposed to be for everybody, where it's the most learning you do. And I hope that, and I'm sure I will at some point, but I hope that even if I do drop the ball on some of it, that I'll be able to just go with what I know and be able to recover from it.
Yeah. That said, the glory of God is because he's always there. It's like prodigal son over and over and over again.
I oftentimes think to that famous picture of the two sets of footprints in the sand that then turn into one.
You're going there, okay.
I'm absolutely going there.
You're going to quote the footprints thing from 1970 something. All right, go ahead.
I mean, that's when you're from.
Yeah, I know, it's just...
I mean, is everything from the 70s invalid?
No, but, I mean, you could think
I mean, you could make the argument.
I was hoping for some sort of, like, new enlightened kind of thing, not just some... Okay, footprints in the sand. Go ahead, Gavin.
No, never mind. Never mind. Because clearly you know where I'm going with this. So
this is when you carried me.
But as dated as it may be, it's still powerful.
Yes, it is.
And I feel like that is something we should recognize.
And I'm sorry.
No, it's not. It was such a risk for you to start doing a podcast, because now people see like how you actually are. Because I mean, like,
I actually am.
Well, I wouldn't say you present like an alternate persona on Sundays, like per se, but you definitely strengthen.
Don't talk.
You strengthen the filter quite a bit.
I've learned that when I open my mouth, bad things sometimes happens.
So Amanda's finally gotten through to you.
This is what I love about the power of video editing, though. Is like you just take those things out and
make yourself sound smart all the time.
Yeah, just.
I hope you leave this bit in, but
the footprints.
No, not the footprints. No, because you made me look like a moron.
I didn't make you look like a moron. You did that on your own. You're gonna start singing "Just As I Am"?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry. All right.
Or
I'm gonna name some stores from my childhood, and you tell me if you know any of them. All right.
awesome.
Grandpa Pigeons.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Venture.
No.
Service Merchandise.
Vaguely familiar.
Vaguely familiar. Okay. Ben Franklin.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Okay.
I can't remember what it is, but I've heard of it.
Famous Bar.
I have heard of that one.
Okay. That one might have been around for a little bit. Those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. But okay. I bet you I can name every one of your stores. When were you born? You were born what?
Oh, two.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang. I didn't even make it in the 90s.
No.
Wow. You were born after 9/11.
Yes.
Wow.
You have known me for 7 years, and this is like just now dawning on you?
I was like 30 when 9/11 happened.
So then you would have been 31 when I was born.
Somewhere around there.
So you're
I was
30?
probably like 28, somewhere around there. I can't even think of the math, but I can't math good.
Or word good, for that matter.
Anyway.
It was a dangerous game telling me to just sit here and talk to you. Because this is because I know like none of it's ever going to see the light of day. But
What do you mean it's not going to see the light of day?
some of it might. Some of it
A
might.
lot of it will.
I hope that the store game makes it, but
The store game?
yeah.
What was that?
The thing we just did literally 30 seconds
Oh, the
ago.
store game. Okay. I didn't know that was a game. I was just naming off stores. I just want to see how dated you were. So yeah, 2002, man. So you're like, I can't even think of anything that came out in 2002. It's all a blur after that.
Eminem. Okay, so
Eminem
he was
90s, wasn't it? No.
99 was when like he officially debuted, but I feel like he like
He was around with
blew
Limp Bizkit.
up.
Limp Bizkit was 99. That was like Woodstock 99. That was Limp Bizkit's heyday.
Limp Bizkit. Blech. All right, look here, Tim Durst. You cannot tell me Limp Bizkit made good music.
I will admit I was a nerd and vibe to it a little bit, yeah.
You know, there were just better things out at that time, especially in that genre.
It made me feel like I was.
It made you feel cool, didn't it?
It did that, and there's a song called "Diddy" by Paperboy. I'm sure you've never heard of it.
Nope.
All right, that one is burned into my memory because I worked at a restaurant and there was a guy, and it was back in the day. You remember cassettes?
Yes.
Okay, you know what cassettes are. All right. So there was a guy, and he put in the cassette, and it was a single for Paperboy's "Diddy." And he would play that and then flip it over and play it again and then flip it over and play it again and then flip it over and play it again. And this went on for hours and hours and hours every day. And that song is permanently etched into my timeline of life. So every time I hear that song, like, doo, 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 this is how I'm coming from the 9 deuce. Another. Anyway.
See, and what's funny about you, because like, you know me, like Slipknot's one of my favorite bands.
It is.
Yes.
And I don't know you.
You got after me for listening to Slipknot before worship practice.
Okay.
Because they had just dropped an album. Like, this was just a few months ago.
Please don't say dropped.
They dropped a new album.
Released?
They released a new album.
Thank you.
And I was listening to it in the parking lot when you pulled up, and you made fun of me / got after me for it.
I didn't get after you.
You did a little.
Okay. I may have said.
But it's just funny to me. I can't stand Limp Bizkit, but I love Slipknot and Korn.
Are they similar?
Yes and no. I feel like the instruments and vocals from Slipknot and Korn are a lot better.
I watched the
But-
Woodstock 99 documentary, and apparently Korn was the band. Everybody's just waiting on Korn.
They're so good.
Limp
They're
Bizkit set off
so
some riots, but, yeah.
well, so is Guns N' Roses though. But so I've seen that footage so many times, and like with a lot of their songs, their crowd just looked like liquid. Like it was so cool.
Jesus and Korn.
I mean, their guitarist is Christian, so.
Is he the guy that converted?
Yeah, so he's the guy that left the band for like 10 years and then came back.
Okay.
Brian
I
Welch
think
is
I
his
saw it.
name.
Was that something zombie. What was it?
Rob Zombie.
Yeah, is he converted?
No.
Okay,
Not to my knowledge.
I saw something. It was like one of them like heavy metal dudes or whatever that was in like a real popular band. I can't remember which one. It's probably Korn. But.
Well, you know, Marilyn Manson was born Christian, and then, you know, Lord knows what happened there.
Isn't that weird? It's like Justin Bieber, like Kanye West. I don't know. It's almost like...
Do you... Okay, just because I'm curious for your opinion on this. Do you actually consider Kanye West to be a Christian? Because I don't. Well, like, Okay, let me rephrase this. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Is Trump a Christian? Let's not even go there.
All right. Well, because we all know the answer to that one. But, no, because, like, I don't know what Kanye's status with the Lord is. I don't know that I want to know. However, typically there is a killing off of the ego and worldly tendencies when one has dedicated themselves to the Lord, and I just don't see that.
I wish Kirk Cameron would quit acting, especially in Christian movies.
I wish that a lot of people would quit acting and making music, but, you know, here we are. Billie Eilish.
There is a... What's wrong with Billie Eilish?
A lot of things. First of all, she apparently doesn't know how to open her mouth because she just sings like this.
Happier than ever. And she tore that song up.
No. And I can't stand, like, okay, when it's done right, like the airy kind of vocal tone is good, but when it's not done right, it drives me nuts, and I don't vibe with it.
Fair enough. So you don't like Billie Eilish?
No. The Weeknd, not a big fan of his.
Is he a Christian?
No. No. He's that guy that makes all those songs that sound like they're supposed to be from the 80s, but they're from like 2021.
There's a scene in Fireproof. Have you ever seen that movie?
Mm-mm. Go ahead and tell your Kirk Cameron story, please, because I am intrigued.
All right. So this movie Fireproof, he plays a guy that is having a divorce, and it's a Christian movie, and it's got a really good theme to it and a good storyline, but he is so awful at his acting role. Like, there's this scene where he, if I remember it right, where he's mad because the pizza...
Like passion levels of bad acting?
Oh, it's just, it would be like if right now, like my role was to, okay, Tim, you have to start acting mad because this cap doesn't fit the water bottle, and this is Kirk Cameron style acting. Oh my God!
How dare you say that to me? You constantly nag me and you drain the life out of me.
There's no segue or transition into it. There's just like, you're mad because your wife didn't cook the pizza. What is I guess with churches in general, what is the biggest turnoff that you have experienced or have seen? And I guess like what what infuriates you about church culture, church people, things along that line that you just do not like. And
this is gonna shock you.
All right, good.
To your core.
It's me.
Lack of authenticity, 100%. That's just one of my biggest pet peeves in life. Lack of authenticity is automatically going to put me off of a church, and there are certain behaviors that you can identify that really, you know, really are what sets some bodies apart from another. Lack of authenticity, that's one of them. When I see senses of superiority between leadership and the body, because that's not how it should be. Like, as much as, yes, these people are leading, it's still very much a symbiotic relationship, you know?
Symbiotic.
Both parties benefit.
Okay.
Sorry. No, and really what it is, it's, you know, it's almost like the leadership is the motor of everything, but then the body, you know, is the everything. And so whenever I see that sense of superiority, that's another really big one. And honest, like, the biggest one, this is the actual biggest one. Does the Spirit move or not? Because I've been to churches before where I have basic disagreements with them on a lot of different things, but I'll still feel the Spirit flow through service. And that, you know, as much as I may still be put off of that church, it shows me that it's not so much it's a bad church, it's just that it's not the church for me.
Right.
Now, if I can go somewhere and not feel any Spirit flow and just hear the Spirit just constantly saying things in my ear of, like, you know, things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. And that's like a whole other can of worms of, you know, my thoughts versus the Spirit.
Right.
But that can be another really big one. But just the flow of the Spirit is the biggest one. Like if I go to a place and I can't feel the Spirit flowing, I know something's not right. Because it takes two voices in agreement to encourage the presence of the Lord. That's all it takes. And that condition is met, but the presence isn't following. So what's that blockade in the middle of it? And, you know, I could have the choice of sticking it out and try to figure out what that blockade is, or I know that's just not where I need to be at.
There was I was talking to Jonathan McClure, he was talking about, I saw when I was down at the church he was at, he's got a thing on the pulpit and it says, it's not about you. And then he mentioned the one that I didn't see at the time, but it was like stuck underneath of it, but it's a picture of Smokey the Bear, and it says only you can prevent revival. And I thought that was kind of cool.
That's good.
That's good.
I like that a lot.
Shout out to Jonathan McClure. And his
that's amazing.
I like that because, yeah, you can definitely, through your own attitude, through, you know, just your like distaste for what's going on in the room and things like that.
And that's part of my hypothesis, if you will, as to why the Spirit doesn't flow sometimes in services, in churches, or even in our church, because, you know, like, I can't say anything for anybody else, but, like, I can be in bad attitudes at times. Like, I cannot be engaged.
So jolly all the time.
Oh, I know, right? Not cynical at all.
Just constant bundle of happiness.
No, but like seriously though, like that can have a major effect, like, and it does have a major effect, not only on what you get out of it, but when you're in our unique position, what everyone else is getting out of it too.
Yep. All right, we'll wrap it up, and I'm sure you get messages, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, done.